My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and this is the story of how my life burned to the ground and how I rebuilt it from the ashes. We have been married for 8 years. 8 years of shared plans, inside jokes, lazy Sundays, and quiet dinners. Or at least, I thought that's what we had. Emma was my college sweetheart. She was stunning, intelligent, and carried herself like she was meant for more, always chasing something bigger. I love that ambition. I supported her through grad school, late nights working at the law firm, the constant networking events, and business trips that seemed to grow longer every year. I was proud of her success. At first, but slowly something shifted. She became distant. The texts turned shorter. The phone calls became forced. She was always busy. I chalked it up to work stress. After all, her firm was pushing her hard for partnership. I was wrong. It started as small cracks, things you tell yourself are nothing. She started locking her phone, something she never did before. She'd come home smelling like a different cologne, saying it was from a coworker hug. She started working late far too often. But I trusted her. I wanted to believe that our love was stronger than my growing doubts. One Friday night, she came home later than usual. I was waiting in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but my mind was racing. She looked different. Hair perfectly done, makeup still fresh, that red dress I hadn't seen in months. "Sorry, babe," she said casually, dropping her keys on the table. Dinner ran long. "With who?" I asked softly. "Just a few colleagues. You know how these client dinners are." I nodded, but my stomach tightened. The lies were getting easier for her. That night, while she showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She had left it unlocked for once. My heart pounded as I glanced at the screen. A message preview flashed. "I miss you already. Same time next week?" Red heart. No name. Just a message. I froze. My hand shook. My world started spinning. But I didn't open it. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I went to bed, pretending to be asleep when she came out of the bathroom. My mind was racing, my chest tight, but I said nothing. I couldn't confront her without being sure. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye and headed out early for work. I sat there alone, staring at the spot where she usually drank her coffee. The house was too quiet. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I started paying closer attention, watching her patterns. Her lies became sloppier. Too many weekend seminars. Too many emergency meetings. She was slipping, but still confident enough to think I was blind. A week later, my worst fears were confirmed. I followed her. It felt pathetic, me sneaking around like some private investigator. But I had to know. Her car pulled into a boutique hotel downtown. She stepped out, glanced around like she was checking for traffic, and walked inside. 5 minutes later, a man followed. Mid-40s. Expensive suit. Confident. Smiling. I snapped a few photos from my car. That image would burn in my brain for months. When she came home that night, she was all smiles again. Another client dinner. Another lie. I didn't say anything right away. I needed to gather myself first. I needed to decide whether I wanted to confront her in rage or strategy. My gut said wait. A few nights later, the opportunity came. She was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone while sipping wine. "I know," I said quietly. She looked up, pretending not to understand. "Know what? About you." "Him." "The hotel." Her face changed instantly. The fake innocence disappeared. Her jaw tightened. For a brief moment, she looked like she might try to lie again, but then she didn't. Instead, she simply exhaled and said, "Well, I guess that's that." No apology. No explanation. Just cold acceptance. And then came the words I would never forget. "Daniel, you'll never find someone like me." It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. As if she truly believed she was irreplaceable. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply walked out of the kitchen and into the guest room. That night, I lay awake for hours, her words stabbing me over and over. "You'll never find someone like me." And maybe she was right. The days after her confession felt like walking through fog. I moved my things into the guest room. We barely spoke. She continued her routines like nothing had changed, as if her betrayal was just a minor inconvenience. She wasn't ashamed. She didn't even try to win me back. She just existed, in some twisted way, That cold indifference hurt more than the affair itself. I still went to work every morning, keeping up appearances. My coworkers didn't know. My family didn't know. I told no one. It was easier to suffer in silence than open myself to their pity. At night, I'd sit in the dark, scrolling through my phone, staring at those hotel photos, reading that one text message over and over. I miss you already. Same time next week. Emma didn't even bother hiding the ongoing affair after that. She stayed out late. She dressed like she was going on dates. Sometimes she wouldn't come home until morning. I didn't ask. I didn't confront. I simply watched the marriage rot. Weeks turned into months. One night, I finally broke the silence. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where she had first looked me in the eye and delivered that fatal line. I want a divorce, I said calmly. She didn't flinch. Fine, she replied, sipping her wine. Do what you have to do. No fight, no emotion. It was like she had been waiting for me to say it. I met with an attorney the following week. The lawyer asked me questions I hadn't even thought about. The house, the savings, retirement accounts. The weight of it all nearly crushed me. I had built my life around her. Our finances were completely entangled. And Emma? She was prepared. Her lawyer came in sharp, cold, focused. She demanded nearly everything. Half the house, a chunk of my retirement, spousal support. As if I was the one who had ruined the marriage. I sat there in that conference room, staring at the woman I once loved, barely recognizing her. This is what you want? I finally asked her, my voice hoarse. She smirked. I earned it. Earned it. That word made my skin crawl. The divorce dragged on for months. Every meeting chipped away at me. Friends who once admired our relationship stopped asking questions. My parents offered soft, hollow advice. You'll move on, son. They didn't understand. They couldn't. When the divorce was finalized, I moved into a small apartment outside the city. It was half the size of our old house. I slept on a mattress on the floor for weeks before I finally bought a rail bed. For the first time in years, the house was truly silent. No fake smiles. No tension. Just me and my emptiness. But strangely, that silence became my ally. I started waking up early, going for runs, eating better, reading books I had long ignored. At night, I worked on myself. My career, my finances, my mind. The pain was still there, but it was sharpening into something else. A quiet determination. I also started therapy, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to survive. Dr. Sanders helped me face truths I hadn't wanted to admit. That I had spent years ignoring red flags. That I let my self-worth be tied to Emma's approval. That I had been slowly disappearing inside my own marriage long before she ever stepped into that hotel room. One night, while driving home from therapy, I saw Emma's face on a giant billboard. It was an ad for her law firm. Her new promotion. Emma Carlisle, partner. There she was, smiling, confident, thriving, as if nothing had ever happened. For a moment, I felt the old bitterness rise again. But it passed. She could have her spotlight. I didn't want it anymore. I was rebuilding something better. But then, fate had other plans. It started with a message request on LinkedIn. A name I barely recognized. Claire Thompson. I opened it, curious. Hi, Daniel. I know this is random, but I need to speak with you. It's about Emma. Please don't ignore this. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Who was Claire? And what did she know? I sat staring at that message for nearly an hour. It's about Emma. Please don't ignore this. I debated whether to respond. Was it a trap? Some legal trick? Or maybe just some random person with old gossip? Eventually, curiosity won. Hi, Claire. What is this about? I typed. A few minutes later, she replied. I don't want to discuss this over text. Can we meet? I promise this concerns you. And you deserve to know. I hesitated, but something about her tone felt sincere. We agreed to meet the next evening at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, my nerves rattling. I had no idea what to expect. But when Claire walked in, she wasn't what I imagined. She was around Emma's age, well-dressed, but not flashy. She looked nervous, glancing around like she was afraid to be seen. She sat across from me and whispered, "Thank you for coming." I stay guarded. I don't know who you are, or why you contacted me. She nodded. You don't know me, but I know Emma. We used to work together. I was at the firm when she started seeing him. My stomach twisted. You mean her affair? Claire nodded. Yes, but it's worse than you know. I leaned in slightly, my heart pounding. Go on. Claire took a breath. The man she was seeing, James Calloway, he was one of the firm's biggest clients. A married client. Their relationship wasn't just an affair. It was calculated. They both benefited from it professionally. James funneled huge contracts through the firm while they were involved. Emma leveraged that to fast-track her promotion to partner. I sat frozen. She risked everything to climb the ladder. Claire continued, her voice shaking. But eventually, things went bad. James's wife found out, filed for divorce, sued him, and then threatened to expose Emma's involvement if the firm didn't cut ties. I blinked. I never heard any of this. They buried it. Quiet settlements. NDAs everywhere. Emma kept her job, but barely. The partners were furious. She was almost forced out, but salvaged it by distancing herself from James completely. That's when she divorced you. She needed to clean her public image. And you were collateral damage. I couldn't speak. It was like the final puzzle pieces were snapping into place. I had always believed the affair was about passion, or maybe even boredom. But now I saw it for what it really was. A business transaction. Calculated. Ruthless. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Why are you telling me this now? Claire's eyes welled up slightly. Because she's doing it again. I stiffened. What? She's seeing another client. And this time, she's being even riskier. Claire opened her purse and slid a small flash drive across the table. Everything is on here. Emails, messages, documents. I've been gathering it quietly. I stared at the drive, afraid to even touch it. This could destroy her career, I whispered. Claire looked me dead in the eye. I know. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The weight of what sat between us was too heavy. Why risk this? I finally asked. She exhaled. Because I was like you once. I trusted people like her. People who step on others to get ahead. And because you deserve to know the truth. I left the coffee shop dazed, gripping the flash drive tightly. The drive held the power to ruin Emma's entire world. But did I want revenge? Or did I want peace? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind spun in circles, fighting with itself. One part of me screamed to expose her, to finally make her feel everything she had made me feel. But another part whispered that dragging her down wouldn't rebuild what I lost. Around 3 a.m., I plugged in the flash drive. The files were worse than I imagined. Dozens of emails, explicit negotiations, promises of kickbacks, even communications with senior partners hinting at unethical deals. Emma wasn't just unfaithful. She was corrupt. She had built her career on lies. I sat in my apartment until the sun rose, staring at the screen. Then my phone buzzed. It was Emma. Can we meet? It's important. After almost a year of silence, she wanted to meet now. I didn't reply. Not yet. But I knew. The final reckoning was coming. For 2 days, I didn't respond to Emma's message. I needed time to think, to plan. But her request echoed in my mind. Can we meet? It's important. Eventually, I texted back. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., at the park near the lake. I picked that spot for a reason. Public, neutral, open air, a place where neither of us had history. The next evening, I arrived early. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the water. My pulse was steady, but my mind was sharp. The flash drive sat in my pocket like a loaded weapon. A few minutes later, I saw her approaching. Emma looked different. Not the cold, confident woman from our divorce hearings. She looked tense, her movements hesitant, like she was carefully calculating every step. Daniel, she said softly as she sat on the bench beside me. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence hang. Finally, she spoke. I know you probably don't want to see me, but I need to be honest. I almost laughed at the irony. Honest? Now, I said flatly. She swallowed. Things are complicated. No, I cut in. They're actually very simple. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You've heard something, haven't you? I said nothing. My silence was an answer in itself. Her face tensed. The walls were cracking. For the first time in months, she wasn't in control. She exhaled, as if trying to reset her composure. Look, she began, her voice a mixture of desperation and arrogance. What happened between us, it wasn't just about another man. You know that. Enlighten me. I was under pressure. There were opportunities at the firm. James was part of that world. It was business. Survival. If I hadn't made certain choices, I'd still be struggling to get ahead. And sacrificing your husband was part of the deal? I asked coldly. Her lip twitched. I thought you'd understand eventually. You always supported my ambition. I supported you, Emma. I didn't sign up to be discarded. We sat in silence for a moment. The evening wind picked up, rustling the trees. Then she leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. Someone's been talking to you. Who is it? I met her eyes. Does it matter? Her jaw clenched. You don't know what you're playing with. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, holding it between my fingers. Oh, I know exactly what I'm playing with. Her eyes widened briefly before she quickly masked it. You think you can threaten me with this? She whispered. I'm not threatening you, Emma, I said calmly. I'm giving you a chance. A chance. Yes. To come clean. To fix it yourself. Before someone else forces your hand. She laughed bitterly, but there was fear behind it. You think you're some kind of hero? She snapped. You'll ruin both of us. My career, your peace of mind. And for what? Some twisted version of justice. For the truth, I said quietly. She stared at me for a long time. The mask was slipping more with every second. I thought you'd crumble after I left, she finally said, her voice almost shaking. I thought you'd never recover. That you'd always remember that you'll never find someone like me. I smiled faintly. You're right. I haven't found someone like you. Her face flickered, uncertain how to take my words. Because I found better. She blinked, speechless for the first time. I stood up. The conversation was over. Before walking away, I said one last thing. You have 48 hours. Fix it, or someone else will. She sat frozen as I left her alone on that bench. The next morning, I contacted Claire. We met at her office downtown. She looked nervous, but relieved to see me. Did she try to intimidate you? Claire asked. She tried, I replied. But she's scared now. Claire exhaled. So, what do we do? I handed her back the flash drive. This goes to the board, I said. Anonymously. After 48 hours. Claire looked at me, surprised. You're giving her time? She deserves a chance to finally do one honest thing. Even if it's for the wrong reasons. Claire nodded slowly. You're a better man than I expected, Daniel. I smiled faintly. I'm not sure if that's a compliment. We both knew the storm was coming. But I was ready for it now. 2 days later, everything detonated. The firm's board launched an internal investigation. Documents were leaked. Anonymous reports surfaced. Claire made sure the evidence landed exactly where it needed to. Emma was suspended. Her picture was quietly removed from the firm's website within 24 hours. I didn't hear from her directly, but I didn't need to. Her empire was collapsing. Her carefully crafted image shattered. But this wasn't about destroying her anymore. It was about freeing myself. The worst part, I still felt hollow inside. Until something happened that I didn't expect. 2 weeks after Emma's suspension, life was eerily quiet. The media never picked up the story. The firm handled it internally to avoid scandal. But in her world, the damage was done. The partners lost trust in her. Key clients quietly distanced themselves. Her promotion was revoked. She was still technically employed, but her career was over in everything but name. And me? I was still standing. Therapy sessions became easier. My sleep improved. The anger that once ruled me now sat quietly in the corner of my mind, like an old scar, still there, but not bleeding anymore. Then came the unexpected message. From Emma. Can we meet? One last time. I debated ignoring it. She had already taken so much from me. But a part of me, the part that needed full closure, agreed. We met at a small diner on the outskirts of the city. Not the fancy restaurants we used to go to. Just a quiet place with weak coffee and cracked leather booths. When I walked in, she was already sitting there. She looked smaller, not physically but emotionally, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to her. I sat across from her in silence. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke. I lost everything, she whispered, staring down at her cup. You chose that path, I replied calmly. She nodded. I did. There was no fight left in her, no arrogance, just exhaustion. You were right, she continued, her voice shaking. About everything. I thought I was untouchable. I thought stepping over people was necessary to get ahead. She looked up at me, her eyes glistening. I destroyed us for nothing. I didn't respond. I know you probably hate me, she added. I shook my head. No, Emma. I don't hate you. Her eyes widened slightly, confused. I did for a long time, I continued. But holding on to that only kept me in the prison you built. And I refused to live there anymore. She wiped her eyes quickly. Have you moved on? She finally asked. I paused. Yes. And it was true. In the middle of all the chaos, something unexpected had happened. Claire and I had grown closer. It started innocently, long talks about everything that had happened, sharing old wounds, rebuilding trust in people again. She understood what betrayal looked like. She knew the slow, quiet devastation it brought. And slowly, without realizing it, we leaned on each other. What began as cautious friendship slowly blossomed into something neither of us planned. Real, honest, steady. The complete opposite of what I had with Emma. Emma lowered her gaze. I deserve to be alone. I'm not here to punish you, I said gently. Life already handled that. For a brief moment, she looked like the woman I once knew. Vulnerable, real, human. Do you ever think, if I had made different choices, we could have made it? She whispered. I sighed deeply. We'll never know. We sat there in silence again, the weight of all our years hanging between us. Finally, I stood up. Our conversation was over. As I turned to leave, she whispered one last thing behind me. You did find someone better, didn't you? I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Weeks passed. I focused on my work, my healing, and Claire. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We both carried scars, but we were honest about them. We didn't pretend to be something we weren't. We simply allowed each other to be real. One Saturday morning, as Claire and I walked through a small local farmer's market, she gently slipped her hand into mine. You've come a long way, she said softly. I smiled. Because of you. No, she corrected. Because you refused to let the past own you. At that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. But fate wasn't done with me yet. One evening, about 3 months later, I received a thick envelope in the mail. From a law firm. At first, my stomach twisted. Was Emma suing? Was this some last attempt to drag me back in her storm? But when I opened the envelope, I froze. It wasn't from Emma. It was from James Calloway. Inside was a formal letter and several signed documents. James was being indicted on multiple federal charges: fraud, embezzlement, insider trading. And attached, as part of a public record release, were dozens of previously sealed documents, including full transcripts of his communications with Emma. The entire truth was finally out. Her name, her deals, her lies, all of it fully exposed to the world now. And this time, no firm could protect her. The news would spread. The public humiliation would be absolute. I sat there, reading every page, unable to fully process it. After all the pain, all the suffering, all the manipulation, karma had finally arrived. And I hadn't lifted a single finger. The following morning, the news broke. It was everywhere: the business channels, online forums, even the local morning shows. Federal charges filed against real estate mogul James Calloway. Multiple associates implicated. And there she was, Emma Carlisle. Her name appeared alongside his in every article, every broadcast, every discussion thread. The transcripts, the emails, the unethical deals, all laid bare for public consumption. Her fall was complete. The firm terminated her immediately. No severance, no negotiations. Her law license was suspended pending investigation. Every professional contact she'd once leveraged now publicly distanced themselves. I watched it all unfold from my apartment in silence. I felt strange. I should have felt victorious, satisfied. But all I felt was a deep, heavy sense of closure. The final nail was hammered in without me ever having to swing. The truth had finally spoken for itself. A few days later, Claire and I sat in my apartment as she read through some of the articles. She shook her head. It's over for her. I nodded. Yes. Claire glanced at me gently. Are you okay? I thought for a moment before answering. I'm not angry anymore. She smiled softly, squeezing my hand. Good, because you don't belong in that darkness, Daniel. I exhaled deeply, releasing years of weight I hadn't even realized I was still carrying. You know, I whispered, she always told me I'd never find someone like her. Claire grinned and leaned in closer. She was right. I looked at her, puzzled. Because you found someone better, she finished softly. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The last pieces of my shattered heart realigned. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about justice. It was about peace. A few months passed. Claire and I grew stronger together. We took weekend trips, explored the simple pleasures of a life untainted by manipulation. I watched her laugh freely, something I hadn't seen in so long. We even discussed moving in together. The future that once seemed destroyed was slowly rebuilding itself, stronger, more grounded, more honest. Then one rainy afternoon, completely unexpected, there was a knock at my door. I opened it. It was Emma. She stood there soaked, shivering slightly, looking like a completely different woman. No designer clothes, no polished exterior, no mask. Just broken. Daniel, she whispered. I didn't invite her in. We stood in silence for a moment. I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice cracking. For everything. Her eyes welled up. You don't owe me forgiveness, she continued. But I need you to know, you didn't deserve what I did to you. I was blind, arrogant. I thought power would fill the emptiness inside me. But it only made me emptier. I listened, saying nothing. I lost everything, Daniel. My career, my reputation, everything. I nodded slowly. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I thought you'd hate me forever. I did. I admitted quietly. But not anymore. She closed her eyes tightly, fighting back sobs. I don't expect you to forgive me, she whispered again. I took a long breath. Emma, I don't hate you, and I do forgive you. She gasped softly, as if those words hit her harder than any punishment ever could. But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back, I added gently. It means I'm free, and so are you. She nodded slowly, tears streaming freely now. I hope you find peace someday, I finished. Then for the first time in years, I closed the door, gently but firmly. That night, I held Claire's hand as we watched the rain through the window. The past no longer haunted me. The scars were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had survived. I had healed. And I had found something far greater than revenge. Redemption.